rounding up the first half of the year 2021, and I know so many of you are actually thinking this is a repeat of 2020. No, it's not a repeat of 2020. It's a new year, and it also comes to things that could be similar to last year, but we're definitely better. We're more prepared and we're more advanced in terms of taking the fight forward. What am I talking about? COVID-19 is here. It's real. Just in the last 24 hours, it has not only claimed people all over, but it has also claimed 3 businessmen that are leaders in the business communities. Now, that is definitely sending a strong signal to you, and we're going to be voicing more of that signal here on Good Morning Uganda. My name is Priscilla Nalwoga, and welcome aboard. As you join us, we definitely are going to be doing a lot of things and interesting things today. We definitely will be looking to newsreel. We had the vice presidency, you had one of the prime ministers being ushered into the new offices, and what is the aftermath and expectations of them in these new offices. We will discuss and bite a bit of that. The news is definitely COVID related. Behind the headlines was looking at how government is strategizing to manage the pandemic, and so we will be looking to the reflections of that into the dailies today. Whether Mullen is somewhere trying to figure out what you can do about the weather and nature around you to contribute to the global warming fight. And then later on, Ruben Pima Chivirango will be joining us for sports update. The Euros has gotten tougher and tougher, and annoyingly, some teams that you'd have expected to perform better are not. But he will be giving you analysis into that. It is Good Morning Uganda. I don't do this alone. I start every single morning with distinguished gentlemen. Good morning to you, Felix.
Good morning, Priscilla. How are you?
Very well.
How is your Thursday?
My Thursday is fine because it's giving me thirst for Friday.
That's it.
Yeah.
Well, of course, to you all our viewers, good morning once again, and we must welcome you to this particular day. Now, the Baganda have a saying that and this is a situation that we are in. Every day that passes, we do continue to bless God and say thank you so much for the gift of life, as something quite unusual that the prices of oxygen are high up there, prices of medication are high up there. Now, even if you have money, it is not a guarantee for life. So let us wake up today to thank God for the gift of life, that we can talk freely, we can breathe without any support. But all these things can be avoided. I must also add that how about we carry out the valid SOPs? We've been talking about issues of sanitizing, face masks, social distancing, away from crowds, and many other things. How about we check the food we eat in terms of building our immunity? We won't tire to remind you that you must, this is a time where you must stay, fight to stay alive. Now, for all of you parents, take care of your children and actually take care of yourselves to protect your families. Robert, good morning.
Good morning to you, Felix, and a lovely morning to you wherever you are. Thank you so much for starting your day with us here on Good Morning Uganda. Well, Felix talked about that saying, but you know, it's a very trying moment, but all we are urging is learn to live one day at a time. The greatest achievement in this time is to ensure that you end the day without contracting COVID-19. And also, let's be kind to one another. No act of kindness is wasted, however small it is. Yesterday, I saw quality chemicals coming in to help traders in Nakasero receive mosquito nets. That could have been small, but it didn't go wasted for the ladies that wake up or spend the nights in the market. But also importantly, let's also stay home. It's becoming a way of doing things in Kampala, where every morning police engages in running battles with people who still want to come to their places of work despite knowing they should be locked or they are locked. Now, it is very hard for you to close your business for 3-4 weeks, and it's very painful. But I want to tell you, it is still very painful for you to close a casket of your loved one forever. So let's abide by these SOPs. Together, we shall defeat COVID-19.
Well, such a time as this, where you don't even have the privilege of having the final rights to your beloved, it's even tougher. But what Felix, Robert, and myself are simply saying is that stay safe. And by staying safe, simply observe the SOPs that have been given by the Ministry of Health. Number 1, wear your mask. everywhere you go. I had one of my girls yesterday going to the shop, and it's just shopping within the community, and she was not wearing her mask. Hey, where is your mask? Because you don't know where Muchala shop has been, you don't know what's happening in her community or in her compound, and one thing can lead to another, and the whole community can just go down because of COVID-19. So because you're vigilant, the rest of the community will be safe and guarded and sanitized. We can't speak that enough. Ensure that you sanitize every single time you get into the house. The first thing you do, wash your hands thoroughly and wash your face thoroughly, and then thereafter you can engage and interact with your family members, all the people that you stay with. Now, speaking of stay with, yesterday I was taking an evening walk and I saw something that, you know, gripped my heart, and I want to, you know, engage my friends here. I was walking past the, you know, because of COVID-19 lockdown, most especially women, they have taken to other forms of getting income to be able to cater to their families, and I believe this lady has taken that direction. She has started doing kasori on the roadside, maize, roasting maize on the roadside, so that someone can pass. And so maize goes between 500 shillings and 700 shillings depending on the size. But for me, the heartbreaker was she had a baby, and that baby was in, you know, those the chibayas that have a net. So that baby was in that netted court. It's a netted court, and she was besides the mother, who was on a sigiri roasting maize. That broke my heart. Of yes, it's locked down, but some people are actually having their hands tied. She has no one to leave her baby. This baby I'm talking about is not more than 3 months, if I can say. It's not more than 3 months. And the baby has to be exposed to such conditions for the mother to be able to survive and the baby to survive.
Well, Priscilla, I'm sure maybe you're living in Class A areas, but this is what happens on a daily. There are many mothers that do this thing daily, even before the lockdown. That this is the nature of their work, and they carry their babies in these painful, risky, hazardous situations just to make ends meet. But all we can say is acts of kindness at such a time. Some people are going into depression, some are stressed. I know of a family where the lady contracted COVID-19 and we had to rush the man to Kutabeka Hospital, despite the fact that he was negative, but because of the fear, seeing the wife now on oxygen. So there is so much. That's why I said, let's extend an act of kindness. Maybe what if someone volunteers to stay with that baby? You know, there's no act of kindness that is wasted, however small it is. That's what I can say. But also, you talked about your movements yesterday. Felix, this is what I observed. You know, when private vehicles that don't have stickers were stopped, that's people that are not essential workers, and also border borders refused to carry passengers. This is what happened. People have bought motorcycles, people have bought bikes. Literally, they are not yet used to the road. So yesterday I witnessed a very nasty accident. I saw this woman coming on a bicycle, sloping down Machindye, even staggering, and by the time she wanted to stop because there's a lot of construction happening, she just ended into the car, rammed into a car, and she lost some parts of the body. Of course, she was rushed. So we want to urge the public, yes, you want to move, but if you're not used to riding a motorcycle, if you're not used to riding that is a bike, please do not make this time the moment for you to try. Some believe, because the traffic lady here tells us there's no traffic, but there are still some vehicles on the road, and this could cost your life.
Well, we're definitely having vehicles on the road, but also we have a vehicle of Felix. You do have your assistance on this?
Well, first about the lady, you did talk about Priscilla, the lady on the road, and I really feel, as Robert said, unfortunately, some of us have grown up seeing this. And I think I rather celebrate these women than actually feel sorry for them. I'm the kind of person who gets very proud of people who go out to work now, regardless of how they work, which conditions, then that would be another discussion. But the fact that someone is willing to go out and earn, for me, that is respect. And again, it's important for us to encourage such people in times like this. As Robert said, we must lend out a hand, lend out a heart. It's important. Whatever small gesture you can give, and times like this, we must give encouragement to people. You don't have to give money or nothing, but probably kindness. Don't be rude to people, even if you have to, even if you have a right be as calm as possible. Speak life, speak hope, speak faith to people, because maybe that's all they need to live. I have seen people who just need someone to smile to. Let me tell you, in lockdown, fathers don't have anything to feed their families. Mothers have nothing to give to their children. They have no explanation for what's going on. Everyone is living in dire situation. Maybe we just need to lend out a smile, some encouragement. And it's unfortunate that even the people who we run to, like for example churches, they're equally suffering like any other. They also need us to encourage them, even men of God or women of God for that matter. So times like this, we need to, as the saying is, that and it seems like a meme, but that's what actually we should be doing. That let us all try to keep every other person together. I think this is the moment where we must bring out the best of that.
Well, speaking of keep, we definitely are keeping you up to date with the National Task Force, the Ministry of Health, and everything else that is in between in managing the lockdown for 42 days. And you can find these updates on our social media platforms, on Twitter at UBC TV Uganda. As and when they do come in, we'll be giving them to you live, and you can stream alongside us this morning on Facebook, UBC TV, on YouTube, UBC Television Uganda. Now, the last 24 hours have had something right in Parliament, they've had something in Cabinet, yet they've had something about COVID-19. Let's take a look.
Well, yesterday we saw the handover of offices of different ministers that were sworn in, and we begin with the office of the Vice President, where Vice President Jessica Alupo underscored the need for creation of more jobs to enhance production and widening of the tax base for economic development. Alupo, who also promised not to let Ugandans down and the appointing authority as well. This was during the handover ceremony for office of the Vice President, with the Vice President Emeritus Edward Kiwanuka II pledging support to his successor.
Appointments, the incoming Minister for ICT and National Guidance, Dr. Chris Bariomunsi, has pledged to strengthen and streamline the flow of information, especially in line with creating awareness of government programs. Bariomunsi, accompanied by his two support ministers, Joyce Nabosa Sebugwao and Kabanja Godfrey, were yesterday handed the ICT Ministry instruments of power at an event presided over by the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of ICT and National Guidance.
Muhammad Muwanga Chivumbi of the National Unity Platform political party was elected chairperson of Buganda Parliamentary Caucus. Muwanga, who will be deputized by DP Zulume Baiga, the member of Buganda Parliamentary Caucus, yesterday gathered at Parliament to vote for their new leadership. The caucus included 55 members from the National Unity Platform, 46 from the ruling National Resistance Movement, 4 from Democratic Party and 1 from Forum for Democratic Change, FDC. However, all the members agreed that Butambala County Member of Parliament, Muhammad Muwanga Chivumbi, be their chairperson, deputized by Dr. Lulume Baiga. There was no physical voting on these positions. The meeting also chose Kasanda North MP Patrick Nsamba as their secretary and Busunju County's David Luchamu Zakari Amagwa as their treasurer. Muwanga Chivumbi, also who subscribes to the National Unity Platform, promised to serve with honesty to ensure Buganda gets an equal share of the national cake. In a meeting with leaders of the opposition, Matthias Mpuga, Nsamba also called upon the new leadership to promote unity in the caucus. State Minister in office of the Vice President, also Buyikwe Woman Member of Parliament Diana Mutasingwa Nkunda, also appreciated the caucus for voting a vibrant team. Earlier, there was drama after members of the National Resistance Movement Party, NRM, subscribing to the caucus, proposed that voting for the new leadership be postponed for a general consensus on a number of issues, but this didn't happen.
In matters of health, the Ministry of Health has appealed to Ugandans to always do premarital counseling and testing for sickle cells to reduce the number of children born with sickle cell. The appeal was timely as Uganda joined the rest of the world to commemorate Sickle Cell Day, aimed at promoting awareness about the disease under the theme Improving Quality Life Through Advancing Sickle Cell Care. 20% of the Ugandan population has the genetic trait of sickle cell disease. According to statistical figures provided by the Ministry of Health in Uganda, 20,000 babies are born each year with the genetic defect. However, sickle cell disease is not curable, but if it is detected early, the symptoms can be reduced. Dr. Ruth Achen, the Minister for Health, has expressed the need for reducing the price of medicine for sickle cell, especially for children battling with the disease, and she made this revelation on a talk show commemorating the World Sickle Cell Day.
Away from health issues, we now move to markets, where still the Ministry of Health has said distributing mosquito nets to vendors who have opted to spend the nights at their workplaces of work during this lockdown period. The exercise kicked off at Nakasero Market in Kampala, and the Ministry of Health officials revealed that they are targeting 500 market vendors to receive these nets.
Well, we get to see a reflection on the caucus business that happened yesterday for the Buganda region. And for me, I'm waiting to see these very same members of parliament in their caucus coming out and actually joining the fight against COVID-19. We saw them during the lockdown and partial lockdown while we were having elections and campaigns, and they were promising, they were doing things of heaven on earth. They were providing food to the people, their communities. Today, we wait to hear if that voice is going to be resounding. Now, that's a lot of pressure.
Do you know why you may not say that? Because
Why?
you must understand there is a difference between before and after elections.
Okay.
There is a difference between before and after elections. But
that is
what
why
interested
they say,
me so much, Priscilla, in this Uganda caucus, the scrambling, the yearning for leadership is what is in there.
We shall
The
find
people
out by their
yearning
actions.
to serve. What is in there? That is my biggest question.
Well, Kirabo, pick up your phone and call the candidate that was elected and find out in person. Now, speaking of finding out in person, yesterday we had Iran electing leaders, and we had something interesting. US coming in to actually seize about 30 websites that were giving Iran disinformation. Now, the power of freedom of speech being interrupted by a foreign country is a question mark. But elsewhere in France, we do have a woman that is suffering at the hands of gender-based violence. She may have gone to the extreme of murdering her husband to protect not just herself, but her family. More of this on the international news.
Now we'll start their story where we'll be looking at a woman who killed her abusive husband goes on trial for murder in France. The murder trial of a woman who killed her abusive husband got underway in French city of Cologne, Sayon, on Monday. In her, that is a best-selling book, Tout le monde savait, Everyone Knew, published in May. Now Valerie Bocot, 40, admitted to shooting Daniel Paulette dead in self-defense in 2016. She faces a life sentence for murder, but it's with that same gun in another forest one day, so he wouldn't kill us, that I would kill him. Now she came out to say that at 25 years, her senior first raped her when she was 12 years old. At the time, Paulette was her mother's boyfriend, but Bocot referred to him as her stepfather in the book. Now in 1996, Paulette was also convicted for rape of a minor and spent 2.5 years in prison. Bocot's lawyer, Nathalie Somesiani, told CNN that Bocot wrote in her book that after Paulette was released, he started abusing her again. She was impregnated by him at the age of 17. And one morning in the dining room, he states that screaming because I haven't put the baby's toys away properly, he turned to me and slapped me hard without warning. Bocot wrote, recalling some of the countless times that she had been afflicted with pain and being put to threat of her life. Now, other stories we'll be looking at. Leaked UN draft report warns on accelerating climate devastations. There, a leaked draft report from the United Nations has painted a distressing picture of how climate change will fundamentally reshape life in Earth. in the coming decades, even if humans can tame planet warming greenhouse gas emissions. Now, in what is by far considered the most comprehensive catalogue ever assembled of how climate change is upending the world, and of course Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change drafted the 4,000-page document that was seen by AFP news agency on Wednesday. Species extinction, more widespread disease, unlivable heat, ecosystem collapse, cities menaced by rising seas, these and others are what should be expected come forth if we do continue with the trends in attacking nature. Now, the worst yet to come is affecting our children's and grandchildren's lives. Such and much more of our own is also alleged. Now, in Africa, we'll be looking at Southern African nations agreed to deploy forces in Mozambique. Now, Southern African Development Community, that is the SADC, has said it agreed to deploy troops in Mozambique to help tackle the escalating violence in the country's northern part, but offered little specific operational details. Now, nearly 3,000 people have been killed and almost 800,000, half of whom are children, have been forced from their homes in gas-rich Cabo Delgado province since the conflict began in 2017. On Wednesday, SADC Executive Secretary, that is Astrogmena Tax, said at the end of one-day summit in Maputo that the 16-member bloc of Southern African countries had approved the deployment of a standby force to support Mozambique in combating terrorism and acts of violence in the extreme Cabo Delgado area. The standby force is part of the Regional Defense Pact that will allow military intervention to prevent the spread of such a conflict. Well, clearly there's much that is happening on the international scene, as we also see, but we do not forget to remind all of you, our viewers, please and please take care of yourselves, take care of yourselves, even apart from COVID. Sleep under mosquito nets, endeavor to eat well, do some exercising, take lots of water, fluids. Let your body have the capacity to fight this virus, because it is actually possible. Your body can be your fighting force. Now, equip your body to be able to fight anything that will come into your body. Eat well, and for the kids, make sure they have meals on time. Let them drink lots of warm water and fluids.
And also, we always never tire to remind you that get yourself Hallelujah products. Hallelujah turmeric, Hallelujah ginger will greatly do you very well at such a moment, because we know that your body needs to have ingredients, to have food that boost your immune system, its capacity to fight diseases. And this is a drink that has got some of those that are real condensed and put into here for you to consume, and they will do you good. So at such a time, grab yourself one of these products, Hallelujah turmeric, Hallelujah ginger, and you'll be good to go at such a time. And including, also don't forget, do some bit of exercise so that your body is equally boosted with energies as well.
All right, so we are good to go into the next hour, and we trust that you're going to be following us into the next hour. But before we go into the next hour, Song of Inspiration is here, and it's coming in from Pato Ranking. I'm in love with you. Good morning.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala.
Day on UBC, brought to you by
We've cut and reduced our MTN Momo withdrawal rates. Now you can withdraw mobile money at the lowest rates. You also get MTN Central Points when you deposit, send, and withdraw MTN mobile money. Visit our Momo agents countrywide and withdraw mobile money at our reduced rates from 1st May 2021. Everywhere you go, MTN.
What does it mean to be closer together? It's taking the last bus home for a surprise visit. Closer together is strangers find you. It's bringing home something much more box. It's the warmth of home or the beginning of something new. There's magic in sharing the things that we love, because it's those things that bring us close together.
Echa COVID-19 chijja kugwa. If we get vaccinated now, observe social distancing, wear masks properly, sanitize or wash our hands with soap and water regularly. Together we can defeat this enemy.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way, because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
Therefore, understanding this model. Who do you think you are? A queen?
Hey, haven't you heard? Get Airtel Chillax bundles and browse like a queen.
Get Airtel Chillax bundles that do not expire and browse like a queen or a king. Dial *175# or use My Airtel app.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
We know we are in a lockdown and many of you are really home, and maybe you want to know what is happening, what is trending. You can rest assured knowing that here in Good Morning Uganda, that is our mandate, to inform you, to educate, to entertain, and ensure you're well informed even if movements have been restricted. That is what we do, I, Felix and Priscilla. Yesterday, to begin with, was the Vice President receiving instruments of power, and that was after the office was handed over to her by the former Vice President Edward Kiwanuka Sekandi, handing over office to Honorable Jessica Alupo. A number of similar events happened throughout the day as it has been the previous day. But today we want to look at some of the tasks awaiting these people, more so even the people that have occupied these offices. Interestingly, we now have the second vice president in Uganda. The first was Wandera Speciosa Kaziwe, and now we're having Jessica Alupo, Honorable, take over this. And we also have our Prime Minister, who equally happens to be a woman. Now, we know these are key positions. Sometimes people in a third world developing country, we've heard so much that when it comes to women, some have said these are better managers, educate a woman, educate a nation, and some are very hopeful that they'll better take this docket. Now with us in this panel, we have a woman, and that is Priscilla Nalwoga. Priscilla, I want to begin from this gender angle of it. Yes, we now have the Vice President, a woman, Prime Minister, a woman, we have the first also a woman. There is so much expectation, but we've seen women occupy a couple of places. Has these offices are not basically that they are occupying them to promote gender or something like that, but we have a lot of hopes. Do you succumb to this?
So we do have a good percentage of women representing right from the helm of this country's biggest office, vice presidency, trickling down. I think it's like 3-4 women just back to back in terms of position and order of those positions. And it's something that has been welcomed, not just by fellow women, but also it has been welcomed by men across the bar in different capacities, have come to appreciate that honestly, if you want management, if you want accountability, the better person of in terms of gender, male and female, is the female. And that is why we have these wonderful ladies that are going to steward the country on for the next 5 years. But I would like to say that that shouldn't be the bigger conversation. I believe that when the president was sitting down to have advisory on who was the best candidate to hold each one of these offices that has now been replaced by a woman, they went by credibility, they went by ability, they went by what each of these candidates has done. And please note, it's not like there was only one candidate for vice president, and that is Honorable Jessica Alupo. No, it's not like there was Honorable Nabanja as the only candidate for prime minister. It's not like there was only Rebecca Kadaga as the prime minister for East African affairs. No, there was a number of candidates, and those candidates were vetted by the vetting committee that helps the president make these appointments. And out of the vetting committee, they believe that the best candidates were the people that were then given appointments. And even giving an appointment, they still had to go through the parliamentary vetting. And even in parliament, they did vet, and you can see the particular people that you're talking about, their vetting processes did not take long because of the things that they have been doing over their political years and journey, that have been evidence of what they can do. It's as simple as if you teach a child to maybe sow a tomato into the ground, and then they nurture the tomato, the seeds actually come out with the tomato tree, and the child does bring a tomato home. Daddy, mommy, we can use this tomato to make dinner tonight. Imagine how much more if you added that child another tomato. It goes back to the story of the Bible when there were tokens that were given to 3 people by Jesus, the parable that Jesus talks about. One was given 5, another was given 2, another was given 1. And the one who was given 1 got it, and he didn't say, no, my master's given me something, I must protect it and keep it until my master returns. However, the one who was given 2 actually went and reused those 2, and those 2 multiplied. And when the master came back to ask for accountability, what happened? They were rewarded with more. Even the one that was given 5 tokens, still they made sure that they multiply those 5. And the master came back, asked for accountability, and the master was proud and added more to them. These candidates that have now been officially appointed and now taking on office have been given seeds, have been given tokens, have been given positions right from grassroots positions. And in each of one of those positions, they've been able to create change, create effect, create democracy, create economic influence, contributing to the national programs that we have right from the grassroots. If you look at their political party journeys, you get to see that even in their political party journeys, they've been leaders. You know, and one position has been added unto them until another has been added unto them. Best case example would be Honorable Rebecca Kadaga. Just when everyone thought that now it's over for her, if she is not the Speaker of Parliament, maybe that's the end of her. But now guess what? She's a leader in the East African community. And guess what? After 5 years, you will see her as a leader on the African continent. And one day you're going to be seeing her as a leader on the globe, because of what she does and the fact that she reproduces. There's reproductivity and productivity. And these are the backbones of as to why we are going to be seeing these people be in these offices for the next 5 years.
Felix, after assuming and taking office, Honorable Jessica Alupo, our Vice President, said her main aim is going to see that she delivers Uganda to a middle-class economy, fighting corruption, that is one, and ensure job creation. But let's look at this docket, the Office of the Vice President. We've had some say maybe there isn't at times so much that it can possibly do. We have some countries where a Vice President is even voted for as a runmate, others we have a deputy, and then so when you look at this office, Felix, it's big. It's the second if you are to look at government structures as well.
It's actually not the second.
Actually, if you're to look at president, vice, one would think, but away from those complicities, ability to deliver us to a middle-class economy.
You know, she has no ability.
Hmm?
The office of the vice president
has no ability. I don't know who wrote that speech. If actually that's what she said, I think I missed it. Now, to start with, the office of the vice president is only active to vice the president. Simply that. She has the office of the vice president doesn't have an agenda. It falls in the agenda of the president. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. In fact, in my opinion, the best vice president Uganda has ever had so far is Sekandi. He's unmatched. He's the best vice. In fact, if schools like Makerere should let him write a book about how to be a good vice.
So you're saying he was the best vice because he was not as vocal?
He didn't have to be vocal because he was vice. One of the things that brought problems for Professor Kenya was not to be a vice. You've seen what's happening in Kenya with Ruto. The problem is that a vice, for example, and I remember, and the principal can't go somewhere. If a principal goes somewhere and they give 10 million, you as a vice, when you come, you just have to give like 50,000. And that was, I think, the conflict. If you remember the issues of Gilbert in Kenya, when he used to go to functions, he would give maybe, let's imagine, an example, he gives 100 million and his principal has given 20. How dare you do that? That's what I'm saying. For me, in terms of practice, Sekandi has been the best vice president Uganda has ever had. And by the way, even per the written, even in terms of theory, that's how a vice president should be. So when the vice president comes out and says, I am going, do you have a mandate?
Your agenda is your boss's agenda.
And only when it has been delegated unto you. So, for me, when someone comes out to say that, I find that that is, again, just for the papers and what. But away from that, Priscilla was talking about the presence of women in positions of influence. I know for a fact that being a vice president is a position of good lobbying. For me, that's what I can say. And why? That she's a person who sits in cabinet, who shares from the spring of the president at any time, in terms of connection, in terms of, just to mention. So, the best we can use that position is for lobbying. Image. If you remember the time when Dr. Speciosa Wandera Kaziwa was president, there was a lot of conflict, by the way. For some of you who are keen to read, and you remember, there were accusations, there were all these things, and that did so much taint to the stature of women. If you remember the aftermath, even she did a good job, but she didn't live the best. We don't know how true these allegations were. Whether or not they were true, we don't know up till today, because there was no inquiry, there was no report, there was nothing. But there was a problem. Jessica Alupo comes in an office that she must revive the glory of, in terms of gender. It is not obvious for us to think and say that because she's a woman, that's enough. The office doesn't come with a card of gender. So it's not like it's a vote of
it's not a vote.
Not at all.
No, it's not.
So it comes with expectation of execution, regardless of gender.
Yes.
But we have faith that she has the nerve to confront this office, and I can tell you why. She has served in one of the hardest ministries, the Ministry of Education, and she did tremendously. I remember her those days. In fact, there was a time when she was in office, we had a small strike at campus, and they told us, someone came and told us, let's march to her office, what happened after, I'll not tell you. People started playing tempo with officers in town, and unfortunately their office is somewhere next to confines of police, actually. So you can imagine. But what I'm saying is that she's tested. She takes on a job she has been around, rubbed shoulders with. The biggest question is, what are the expectations of Ugandans? You see,
for that particular office.
Yeah, even from women per se. And this you want to attribute to issues of religion, attribute to issues of culture, but also exposure. That it is only, okay, I won't say only, but it is in Uganda where our expectations, you start to judge someone's capabilities simply because they are women of a particular gender. Even before, you've heard the things they have said about Honorable Nabanja. You've heard the things they have said about Jessica Alupo. Because one was saying, as you said, she's second in command, but okay, she's part of the office. Like what you saw in Tanzania. Does she have the nerve to confront the country, to take on this seat? And I would tell you honestly, what does it take? What one would ask you, what did Honorable Sekandi do that you think she can't do? What did Honorable Rubunda do that Nabanja can't do? I would make all these comparisons. Our duty as citizens is to support the people in office. And honestly, there may never be a time in this country, and you can quote my word, that women have been appreciated than the time of His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. And if he didn't take this upon himself, we were still going to be caught up in a traditional, archaic thought about women. In fact, when she chose the president, Honorable Kazibwe, the world was the whole world, by the way, not just Uganda. The whole world was, you see, even Margaret Thatcher in the UK, she was battered by the media.
Just because of that?
No, not even the media, because I've been privileged to watch, some of those documentaries about her, and just the men themselves were divided about being led by a woman, regardless of how she could actually serve the country forward.
But you heard what happened to Theresa May. Yes. She quit the pressure because of, again, gender.
Marginalizing.
Now, exactly.
We still have
we don't want to be a part of a country that.
Felix, that was said that we still have that kind of people looking at women and what you call a cake. But if you look at women in leadership, and I want to put this to you, where Uganda we are leading in terms of ensuring that we promote the girl child in all aspects. Women, we've had these efforts aimed at promoting this particular gender. Have we seen them deliver as expected?
Robert, let me say this.
Why are you marginalizing it in terms of gender? Why don't you question if these men that have been in leaders of positions of leadership?
I think it's okay. It's okay.
It's okay.
Let me just say it this way. When you take an office of public good, we do not cause expectation in terms of gender.
Yes.
We will judge, and how do you judge performance? It's on the expectation or the required duties. So you don't judge someone, and this is the mistake we normally do, all of us, that we want to first and foremost, before we go into roles, we want to first of all judge the personality. Questions like, Wagwangachi, which tribe?
Uganda.
Okay.
Abaganda.
Abaganda. Now, you've judged the person not on what they can do, but based on where they come from. Secondly, then you bring the aspect of gender. Now, you've left what the person can do. And I can, because it's unfortunate that we don't have enough time, but if I was to give you the background of someone, you see that if it's terms of experience, many of these women are more experienced than most of these men. Now, imagine you bring the experience of a woman like Honorable Rebecca Kadaga in the cabinet.
Yes.
A person who has experience as early as the CA, the Constituent Assembly, up to the point of being Deputy Speaker 10 years, Speaker of Parliament 10 years. She was Minister in 2 different decades, and now Prime Minister. Who better person do you have to fit in such an office?
Who can understand that also the regional
you get the point.
She's being part of
she has headed bodies of
decisions
of parliaments, being chairperson Parliament African, East African. So, now the problem is that no one is going to think about that. They're only going to question the womanhood.
The womanhood, yeah.
Let me tell you, it's a painful truth. But everything men can do, away from these other reproductive, women can do, and they have done.
And the other beauty about it is that, Robert, you brought it out from the angle of while they're skilling the girl child and putting them up there. I think this is a challenge for men also in this time, seeing that the president can actually elect not just 1, 2 or 3 women. 43% is a big number. It's a very big number for an African country, by the way. For the diaspora, they're liberal today. But for an African country where we consider culture and the customs of our country, 43 is a big number. But for me, this challenges men that they actually also must step up the plate in terms of grassroots, raising the boy child. Because now imagine a cabinet where you do have men. Some will appreciate these positions and these people without putting in the card of gender, but many of them will also use the card of gender to thrash. And you'll be hearing these conversations over the next 5 years. How will they be framing it in terms of gender? But now there's this younger generation of men that is rising up to fill in these very same positions in terms of politics, democracy, judiciary, the likes. And they will have need to be helped to understand and appreciate the way our president has understood and appreciated that this country is for everyone. It's not for this gender, it's not for that gender, but it's all for Ugandans together. And so from right from the grassroots, they need to be aided in understanding and appreciating that we need to embrace each other and carry each other's shoulders to be able to carry what the vision and the desire of Uganda is, not just for Uganda, but for East Africa, for Africa.
Well, ministers have now taken office. The swearing in was done. And also now we're waiting to see how they're going to be delivering in their various capacities. For us, what we look forward as Ugandans is effective service delivery, and like the Vice President said, she said fighting corruption will be key on her agenda to ensure that Uganda is propelled to another level. Let's all support. Let's look forward, because yes, much as you ask, what has the country done for you? What have you done for your country? How have you been supportive? How have you embraced government programs? Because many are going to be coming to your communities. We now have the Myoga, we have the parish development model, and many other. So let's support these programs. Let's work together, Uganda for all of us. Like Priscilla said, you shouldn't be segregative or basing on gender, tribe, religion. All these are some of the issues His Excellency has already said that were a problem to Africa and particularly Uganda. When we return, we will be looking at what is trending in the print media, as Priscilla will be preparing to take us through traffic and the weather lady and nature. Molen will also be preparing to take us also better understand issues of weather, climate. Maybe also should mention a bit of carbon trade as well, where African countries can stand to benefit a lot. We'll return shortly.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field couldn't be possible without it.
And now we can watch our favorite show.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spec management, tariff regulation, rural communication development, and consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
Echa COVID-19 chijja kugwa. If we get vaccinated now, observe social distancing, wear masks properly, sanitize or wash our hands with soap and water regularly. Together we can defeat this enemy.
Indeed, thank you for keeping it with us. It is our mandate to ensure that as you're home and obeying, that is the directives aimed at protecting you and your loved ones against the spread of COVID-19. We keep you informed, and we're now looking at some of the headlines in the papers. The New Vision today, we have a very big headline there. LCs to identify COVID-19 relief cash beneficiaries. This is the local councils, your village councils will identify who are the beneficiaries, who are the vulnerable. That is according to the New Vision. Still, we see the handing over of office. That is a picture of Vice President Emeritus and the current Vice President. That is handing over office to Honorable Jessica Lupo as the new Vice President. Still, we look at COVID claiming. That is the chairperson of Kampala City Traders Association, that is Kasita, now Kasita Uganda, Everest Kayondo, who succumbed to COVID-19. We stand with the family and, of course, the business community as well for this big loss. Restrictions, over 1 million apply for travel permits as people have to end up making movements, essential movements, I would call them. Then education officials charged over, that is 228 that is million they frauded. That is in the fight against corruption. Still on vaccines, government releases more COVID-19 vaccines. Yes, those that are meant to get their second jab, please be interested to know how and where you can get that jab when time is ripe for you. Then still looking at what is trending in the education sector. Today they have brought you that is Senior 2 Physics, Mathematics and Senior 4 English and Entrepreneurship in the New Vision today. Yes, Felix.
On the Daily Monitor, government bans using oxygen at home. And of course, secondary tips Alupo on working with Museveni. Now, lockdown meals, empty streets give man room to breathe and cook. Well, of course, now looking at COVID again, and test early to avoid adverse effects, survivor comes out to say. And of course, today in DM, my father keeps standing between me and my lover. Now, in other stories, government to resume COVID vaccination on Monday, and also government approves 7 groups to get cash. Well, of course, still opposition demand government action on COVID bill, and no trounces NRM takes over Uganda caucus. Well, of course, other stories, the Daily Nation. Now, CBC, new plans for juniors and secondary, and ODM, why we need Kalonzo and Modivani. Now, will he bounce back? Sonko's fate now rather lies in the judge's fate. And finally, the Safari Rally action comes out to get started and have hope for loans after positive IMF review. And of course, the Treasury releases again shillings 43.5 billion to counties, that is in Kenya.
Felix, looking at the Monitor this morning, there is a very big headline there. That is government bans using oxygen at home. I think this is something that was long overdue. I was speaking to one of the medics, and he said the challenge we're having is people come to hospitals now when they've reached almost the verge of death, because they have tried out away from just boosting their immune system, they have tried out all kinds of medication. So by the time they get to hospitals, it is usually too late for us. Someone has been administering oxygen, not monitoring which quantities should be taken in. They don't have so much of that expertise, and now this makes our figures of the dead shoot up, yet maybe lives could be saved. So I think this is a very good initiative if government can monitor.
But of course, also far from that, we didn't see a story where government came out to say that it has gotten 7 categories of people who are entitled to getting money. This is going to be a very tricky one. I can tell you, this whole thing of giving money, I saw the Prime Minister, Honorable Nabanja, saying, and she was very bitter, saying that you have been receiving millions of money through your line, and then you want us to think that you're vulnerable. I think that was a very unfair statement.
Because I could be maybe a taxi driver. My boss is giving me money, sending money to repair the taxi or to repair.
Vulnerability in times of the pandemic is not defined by our previous livelihoods, madam, if I may say this. I don't think that we can define vulnerability of how I've been transacting for the last 4 years, 3 years, or 5 months.
Of course, they could be home dying without even anything to eat. But when they push it to the local councils, maybe I believe.
That's even worse.
Why do you say it's worse? Because
these are people in fences weren't given portion for being in fences. How does that become a yardstick of measuring people who have need? Because you're in a fence, how does that become a yardstick of someone not having capacity? But anyway,
vulnerability is relative. We just hope the task force will eventually find who is best to suit, because you must accept not everybody will get. Even among the poor, they are the poorest of the poor.
Don't be surprised that members of parliament will be given some of this money. Anyway, Priscilla, good morning.
Good morning to you, Felix.
How are you?
Yeah, very nice. Very, very intrigued by the
where
argument.
are we going today? Because clearly, every time you where you take us, they cane us from there. Where is safe for us to go?
Then you better use your panyas, because the official routes do have terms and conditions that do apply. But I'm engaging with your conversation about, who is setting the bar and how high, although the bar is in terms of equity. I think this is a conversation of equity. When you come to vulnerability, who is vulnerable? Yesterday, we had the Uganda Indian Association deciding, you know what, let us as this community take matters into our own hands, and one of the proprietors of a hotel in Kampala decided to actually have their hotel converted into a treatment center. So that means that they've opened it up. Specialists in terms of COVID-19 management can use that facility to be able to curb COVID-19 or fight against COVID-19 in its second wave. Focus is, of course, on the Indian community. Now, this is what we'd be expecting from caucuses, wouldn't we? Well, the journey is far from finished. We're just getting started against the fight with COVID-19. But as we get started, we don't know the ins and outs, neither does our government. Everyone, right from the big offices to the small offices, we all trying to figure it out. So instead of exerting pressure on people who are trying to figure it out on your behalf and for you, why don't you do the little that you can do? And it was Robert who was saying, you're asking your country what have they done for you, but what are you doing for your country? And what you can do right now: wear your mask, sanitize, and ensure that you minimize in terms of gatherings. Social distancing is very key and important. Now, speaking of key and important, the roads do continue to look green every single day, and the roadblocks also keep continuing to increase, most especially in communities. So I just want to have a sneak peek into the industrial area, one of the biggest industrial areas that we have, and see how business is happening in this area, given the fact that industries have been allowed to actually continue business. But terms and conditions were, if you can have your employees staying within the facility of the industry. If you cannot, then you'd have to find arrangements for them to move from the industry into an isolation center so that they don't have to interact with the communities that would expose them to contracting COVID-19, which is definitely hard for an industry to interpret, because there was initially no budget for that. Even if they have miscellaneous budgets, the miscellaneous budgets still were considered for other things at the beginning of the year, or even in consideration of the financial year that is kicking off in a few days, 1st of July to be exact. Now, taking it from Ginger Road, we get to see that Ginger Road is actually clear. Kitugum House is where you would be having the traffic lights that would manage, and I believe this red zone is simply because of the traffic lights, and the orange zone here also simply because of that. You do have a railway that passes here, and you do have a railway station down of that side, but you get to see that even if you take that route, traffic seems to be clear. And then we get to see Nachivo channel is one of those channels that facilitates industries in this locality. One of the industries in this area is Mukwano Industries, and Mukwano Industries had this road named after it, Mukwano Road. Taking it from Mukwano Road, you don't get to see much traffic building up. Of course, there is constructions happening to Mukwano Road towards Zambia, and also what you would have as Queensway because of the Kampala flyover, and there you would be expecting a couple of hindrances, diversions, etc., plus about 5 roadblocks. Now we get to see the industrial area. You do have Total Uganda, where you would be seeing it on the 8th Street, and it's only in this particular area. Funny enough, sometime back, I think last week, we had a very heavy shower in the morning, and that shower affected the drainage system of Nalwoga to the extent that rubbish came afloat, and we found it flooded on the road. And we're talking about plastics, most especially caveras and bottles, plastic bottles. Now we need to have a conversation with this regarding this with Moland sometime soon, and find out how can we deal with waste. It's called waste management. 7th Street also has a couple of industries. Vivo Energy is on the 7th Street, and a couple of others here. You have Mantrak Uganda and Tile Center. All these are on these industrial streets, but you get to see that there's actually minimal traffic that you would be getting on this day. Yet on an ordinary day and busy, economically accepted day, these routes would actually be having a lot of jam. Now this feed into Nalwoga, and we get to see that even in Nalwoga, you're not having so much jam that is building up there. Taking the 5th street where you do have Design Hub, you have Brookside Limited. This is going to lead you into Spring Road. Now, Spring Road, you would be expecting some jam, most especially for people coming into the heart of the city, but because it's total lockdown, we are not seeing much of that. A couple of roadblocks, especially around Motive, you do have a roadblock. You do have another roadblock around where you do have Shell. There is a roadblock and another roadblock in the trading center of Bugolobi. You would be expecting those roadblocks, and make sure that you have the things that are needed for you to pass through those roadblocks. Otherwise, you may either, if you find a kind officer, you'll be told to turn around and go back. If you find an officer who has had a rough day, yeah, you will pay a fine. And speaking of fines, those are yet to be discussed and approved, and anytime soon they will be letting you know which particular crime is in consideration and what will be the cost of that crime. But it's a benefit, it's a good thing, so that in one way or another we can give money to the government that it can use to fight against COVID-19, buy more vaccines and supply you with the food portion bins and even the mobile money. Speaking of mobile money, there's this joke that has been going around, a meme, and someone said make sure that your phone is charged at 100% all the time, because anytime now Honorable Nabande is calling you and telling you what is your last name on his mobile money number. Very interesting how Ugandans actually cope with challenges. We get to see more of Spring Road. Port Bell Road does connect you into the heart of Bugolobi, and where you would be having a back route that does intercept and connects you into Chireka. So we're going to take a sneak peek onto that road and see what the traffic is like on Chireka Road past Gaza. Gas fuel station. You get to step into Mugezi zone, and then you get to see Mbuya, also seemingly a clear route all the way. Chireka Road is what we are following, and of course Chireka is also having a couple of industries there. You have S-Line Motors that is in Chireka, on Chireka Road, and the rest of Mbuya also seemingly looks clear. There's this sharp bend here where you have Mbuya Chinawataka police station, and it does also have an interaction with Chinawataka that can lead you to Spear Motors. But sticking to Chireka Road, you get to see that Chireka Road does look clear. Now this would be the back route of people coming in from Bwegere and Nakawa. This would be their back route to avoid the traffic jam, most especially at Spear Motors, to be able to save on time and fuel. But to see that it's actually clear all the way adjacent to its main route also, that is clear. Chireka Trading Center also is clear. Now that is how interesting the lockdown is. You only interact with officers to explain as to why you're on the road. Whether you're using footwork, whether you're using a bicycle, whether you're using a boda, whether you're using a vehicle. That is the stance for the 42 days lockdown that we are in. But we can survive, we can thrive. You just have to do your part, and together your part that you play will contribute to the part that will be played and rewarded after the 42 days, hopefully. Now, speaking of hopeful, we do have Molen joining us this morning. Good morning to you, Molen. How are you? Yes. Today you didn't alert me. Yesterday you alerted me, and we did sickle cell day, you know, red code. Today you left me in the green.
Yeah, I mean the green is good. Green is good. So right. You can you're looking good in yellow, by the way.
Merci beaucoup.
Yeah.
So there's a UN report that has leaked, and it's showing that if we don't do what we're supposed to do, we're going to be having a different life on Earth. And this is going to be in the interpretation of extinction of animals, in the interpretation of widespread of diseases, which we've actually been experiencing here in Uganda, looking at livestock in particular. When we look at our agro, it's been affected. We've had diseases in the west. We had another foot and mouth disease. We've had a disease that has hit Luelo, Triangle, and the livestock is surely most affected. These are things that have not been there before, or at least not as rapid and as present as we are seeing them today.
Yes, Priscilla. Actually, this is really devastating. Looking at the leaked report from yesterday, you can see what the UN is actually trying to bring out on what climate change will look like in the next decades. Now, what worried me is the report that they are saying the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, that is IPCC, is bringing out. They are saying a 40-page document that is actually showing us the effects of that we're headed for if we don't do anything in the next decade. So this is mostly looking at all the effects with health, with agriculture, industries, all the sectors actually will be affected.
Okay. We have also seen that emission of gases is going to be, or is already, a big contributing factor to where we are headed in terms of climate and nature, disrupting the ecosystem most dangerously.
Yes, yes, because now, if you look at even the projection for the greenhouse gas emissions, most especially carbon dioxide, even if we do try as much as possible to cut the emissions, but if we do not align ourselves to 100% commitment, it's still going to be a challenge, because guess what? That will include banning of some cars off the road that are not sustainable. And this is going to be a very difficult issue, and abolishing the use of coal and all this very hard to actually achieve if you look at the targets that have been set by the Paris Agreement. So it is still a challenge, and this report coming out like this is like an eye-opener. People should wake up and look at what is likely to happen in the next decade, for sure.
Okay. Robert did mention that there is a way that we can repurpose or recycle gases like carbon.
Yeah, I had a conversation with Robert as well about carbon trade. So now what happens with carbon trade is that the countries that emit most the greenhouse gases, and particularly carbon dioxide, do find a way to compensate for that. So by doing that, the countries that are less emitting to the atmosphere provide a way to like maybe plant trees, that is creating more sinks for the emissions that these other countries that are polluting most are doing. So it's like a trade of a country where there is less emission, and then the one where there is much emission. So that way you earn money. So I don't know whether that could work even here in Uganda.
Well, I mean, it would have to take an arm and a leg of an investment.
Yeah, because we do have a lot of virgin land, for sure. And yesterday we looked at what Gabon did. Now, Gabon committed to planting more trees, having 90% of it actually covered by forests. So in return, you can see they're getting millions of dollars. And they got 17 million. But then, that is just a small portion of what they are supposed to get. Now, in the coming years, they will be receiving more. That is a total of $150 million.
Which is expected to be recipient over a stretch of 10 years.
Yes,
so you definitely, because that's a lot of money, and you cannot give all that money at once. You must see results, the impact of results, and then you assess, monitor, evaluate to be able to give in other monies. Now, this gives a serious challenge to the National Forestry Association to be able to contribute to life on Earth in Uganda.
Yes.
Now, speaking of life in Uganda, we've been having a discussion about women taking on positions of leadership, and that's a great thing that Uganda can actually hold proudly in their hands. However, the very same pride that we have is affecting women on the grassroots. What do I mean? We do have gender-based violence, and the numbers in terms of reports that came out ever since COVID-19 came, not just globally but also in Uganda, have indicated that gender-based violence is on a supersonic increase under COVID-19. Now, there's something that you and I can do about it. Well, we do have the Interreligious Council of Uganda deliberating and having a conversation, bringing it to voice and helping you to understand the challenges, the causes, and how together we can actually contribute to reducing gender-based violence in Uganda. That will be coming up at 10 a.m. Of course, we do have Good Morning Uganda agenda. It will be coming on at 8 a.m. We will be having sports updates coming through the Euros. So many people have come out to say that now groups like F, they are having to apply the mathematical way of Uganda cranes. Go to the board, do the mathematics, and then figure out how does a certain country go through to the next stage of the Euros. Ruben Pima Chibirango will be giving you those updates. Molan with nature and weather.
Yes, Priscilla, I'm happy you talked about women being in power. And personally, I took pride in seeing the vice president take oath and take over that office. It's really brought in a lot of joy. And looking at our cabinet now, all the women that have come in to take on all these big positions, it is a very good picture of hope. And looking at issues of gender-based violence, for sure, it gives a lot of hope to the women out there that needed a voice. And it is a clear indicator of change here in Uganda. But let me take you back to the climate change indicators. We are looking at some of the top 10 indicators that the world is warming. Now, you will notice that we talk about the temperatures rising, we talk about global warming, but there are indicators that scientists do best on to look at what is really changing and what is that trend that is really telling us that there is changes in our climate now. What NOAA gave out is 10 indicators. We look at mostly the air temperatures near the surface. Those we talk about surface temperatures, when there is over time indication that temperatures are rising. And that continuous trend is what tells us that there is really something changing within the climate. The glaciers melting, most of the mountains that we have that are having these glaciers over time, there is indication that the amount keep reducing, and that is a clear indication that there is a changing climate over there. Also the snow cover, like most of the areas, we talk about the Arctic mostly. And recently, over the last decade, we have seen much decrease in the Arctic snow cover. So that is also one of those that show us that there is really a changing climate. We also look at sea level rise. Now, sea level rise, looking at all the projections that we have across the world, actually, they show us that there is likely to have more than 40% of sea level rise across the world. And looking at most of the countries in the projections that will be affected most, especially those below sea level. Now, Amsterdam, Netherlands, that is one to look out for because it is also really below sea level. Now, you also look at indicators like, now we look at the effects that are coming in as the climate changes. So now those also indicate that there is really something changing in our environment. You look at, for example, heavy precipitation. We talk about heavy rainfall that do cause floods in return. We also look at the drought conditions. Now, most areas that have been worst hit by floods, especially the sub-Saharan region, look at prolonged time period of drought, like even going up to 3 months and beyond, and people can't even plant any crops or carry out any agricultural practices. Also the wildfires. Now we've seen these increasing mostly across our rainforests. The Amazon has been worst hit by these wildfires that come up due to disruption within our environment. Also yesterday we were giving out a report on the wildfires from Russia. That is from the satellites that came out from Copernicus, showing us that area in Russia that is worst hit by the fires. Now there is also sea level rise. You look at most of the areas that will be affected with that, and what we're insisting mostly the temperature rise, and the trend is clear. It is showing that most parts of the country have actually been having temperature increases. We're also looking at the atmospheric carbon dioxide. Now this is a very clear indicator because all the data that we have up until now show an increasing amount in carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere. Now this has been, even for the last 50 years, looking at what we had before, the numbers that we have right now for carbon dioxide emissions within the atmosphere are actually very worrying. And now these are all mostly indicators that our climate is changing. We've had changes in our seasons. We've had delaying onsets. You find that a rainy season that was supposed to start in June is starting late. Early June is starting late June. So we have late onsets, but at the same time, even then the rains go back early. So that period that has changed, that variation is also what is indicating to us that there is really a changing climate around us. We want to take a look at what our satellites are showing us over Uganda. This morning we woke up to mostly intervals of sunny and cloudy conditions across most areas within the country. Much clouds across, that is Midwestern Uganda. That is where we have Hoima, that is where we have Masindi as well, Fort Portal. Those are the areas that really had more clouds across the country. But look at the clear skies where you see almost no cloud cover. There is no white picture over there. Those were really clear skies, waking up to very sunny skies across northern Uganda, central north, Padel, Gulu, Lira, and also extending up to the Karamoja region is actually clear. I can't see there are no clouds there. That is very sunny across that area. Also for eastern Uganda, that is where we have Soroti and Muria, very sunny skies showing us no cloud cover. And only for the Mount Elgon Highlands, that is where we have Mbale, we're seeing some of the clouds, those in white. Those are some of the clouds that are starting to form over there. Now coming into northwestern part of the country, this is West Nile. This is where we have more clouds developing this area now. This is where we expect these to actually bring us some rains as the day goes by. And also for southwestern Uganda, I'm seeing this system that is coming in from Congo, but that will be propagating mostly southwards and could bring us rains, especially for southwestern Uganda. Now, Lake Victoria Basin seems clear. We did have that rainy system that was developing in the morning, but now it is clearing away towards areas of Tanzania and won't be bringing us rains, at least for now. But we do still have more clouds developing across this area, and that could be bringing us rains later in the day. And this is the same system that could also affect the central part of Lake Victoria Basin, which is where we have Kampala and Wakiso and Tebe. That could also be bringing us rains later in the day. We want to take a look at our forecast for today, although we're looking at most areas having intervals of sunny and cloudy conditions. Now, we do expect to have intervals of sunny and cloudy conditions across Kampala, Mukono, but that rainy system is also likely to come in our way, and temperatures will be at 25 degrees centigrade. Now, for central part of northern Uganda, that is where we have Gulu, Kitgum, Padel, and Ajuman, we're forecasting isolated showers. Those will be over areas, and temperatures will be at 27 degrees centigrade. Quite a warm morning over there. For central part of the country, that is eastern parts of central, that is where we have Ruwero, Wobulenzi, Nakaseke, Nakasongola in that category as well. We do expect to have a mix of clouds and sunshine, and temperatures will be at a warm 27 degrees Celsius. Also looking at eastern part of the country, we do forecasting a sunny morning over there. Temperatures will be at 26 degrees. That is where we have Kumi, Katakwi, and Moria as well. Quite a sunny morning over there. Now looking at the eastern part of Lake Victoria, we are forecasting a mix of clouds and sunshine, and that will be at a pleasant 26, quite normal for this time of the year over that region. That is where we have Tororo, Iganga, Ginger, and Busia forecasting intervals of sunny and cloudy conditions. Now coming in for Mount Elgon Highlands, that is where we have Mbale. We are forecasting still intervals of sunny and cloudy conditions. Quite a pleasant morning. Temperatures are at a chilly 25 degrees Celsius. That will be warming up as the day goes by. Now for southwestern Uganda, that is where we have Mbarara, Ibanda, Oshenyi, and also Rubirizi. We're likely to have intervals of sunny and cloudy conditions. Quite sunny even for now, but that cloud will be going through, and temperatures will be at 26 degrees Celsius. Now we have the western part of Lake Victoria, which is where we have Masaka, Kalisizo, Sembabule, Rakai, Rengo also falls in that category. We are forecasting a mix of clouds and sunshine over there, and temperatures will be rising up to 26 degrees Celsius. Now that is all we've had for you this morning from the world of weather. We do have Good Morning Uganda agenda coming up with Robert, where they will be taking us through youth and looking at the COVID situation here. That will be a good one. You need to catch on that. You can also follow us on our social media at UBC TV Uganda, also streaming live on YouTube, that is UBC Television Uganda. My name is Molin Kenyana, wishing you a good morning.
This is Good Morning Uganda. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Ekya COVID kijja kugwa. If we get vaccinated now, observe social distancing, wear masks properly, sanitize or wash our hands with soap and water regularly. Together we can defeat this enemy.
Pick of the day on UBC, brought to you by was brought to you by
We've cut and reduced our MTN Momo withdrawal rates. Now you can withdraw mobile money at the lowest rates. You also get MTN Central Points when you deposit.
All soda, water, beer, wine, spirits, and cigarettes were gazetted and are required by URA to bear digital tax stamps before they are sold on the market.
Uganda Revenue Authority. Developing Uganda together.
Welcome to English in a Minute. You probably already know this, but a bank is a place where people keep their money.
Bank on something.
Here are my instructions for making grilled pizza. It begins with fresh tomatoes and basil.
That sounds tasty.
It is. Hey, I'm having a pizza party this Saturday. Why don't you come by?
Oh, you can bank on that. I love pizza.
Rural communication development and consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
time I met this old person, and as we were discussing, he told me, young man, today you're young, but one time you're going to get old. I replied and said, yes, today you're old, but one time you were young. You were a youth, and now you've aged. The Baganda have a saying that envidi enzirugavu zezikolera enjeru, meaning that while you still have this black hair, it is important that you utilize your time very well, because one time you're going to be old and you don't have the energies in you. Now here comes in COVID-19. Previously it was all about the older vulnerable, the older succumbing to COVID-19. However, in the second wave, things seem to have changed, where we are seeing more youth actually contracting the disease and some even succumbing to COVID-19. But also want to look at it from the other angle of how this has impacted on their lives, but also mostly in their businesses, that is the youth-led enterprises. How has COVID-19 impacted on these? And with me in studios, I'm glad to hosting a young man, a young lad, let me use that word, who is Sam Ogwar, and this is the Secretary for Finance, National Youth Council. Sam, most welcome to our studios.
Thank you, Robert. Good morning.
Good morning to you. Well, just to begin by giving shape to our viewer to better understand my guest, when you talk about the National Youth Council, before even we dive so more, throw more light to us. What is this? We know it is by an act of Parliament, a Australia body, but please give us more information.
Thank you, Robert, and the viewers. National Youth Council is a statutory body established by the Act of Parliament with the mandate to organize the young people of this country into a unified body, and also to protect them from all kind of manipulation. It is stretched to the extent whereby we are supposed to support young people's participation into economic activities or developmental activities that benefits them. We have structures from the village to the parishes, to the sub-counties, to the districts, up to the national level. And these people, whom we call the youth leaders, are democratically elected by the youth themselves. Literally, it means that they have the mandate to also speak on their behalf, also to represent their interests. And the good thing is that with the Ugandan democratic system, it has also helped us to at least to stretch our arms up to Parliament, whereby we have the youth MPs, and these youth MPs are elected by the young people themselves, the youth leaders, the members of the National Youth Council. We have the National Female Youth MP, which literally also serve as the youth MP. Our constituency is the countrywide. And then we have the regional youth MPs representing Northern, Western, Central, and Eastern. They all work together with National Youth Council to ensure that the voice of the young people are represented and are heard, to also continue advocating for the youth of this country. So literally that's how we look like, and that is how our structure is. Yeah.
Well, Uganda is one of the countries in the world with the youngest population. You'll find that about 87% of our population is below the age of 30. But to be more specific, according to our constitution, if you're looking at who is a youth, this is a person from the age of 18 to the age of 30. And looking at the UBO statistics, this puts us at about, that is 12 million Ugandans are between the age of 18 to 30, and that is about 23% of our population. Now, these are economically active. With the coming in of COVID, we want to see how this has really affected this huge population of Uganda.
Yes, thank you, Robert. Literally, when you looked into the COVID situation in the country, you realize that the people who are actually now being hit harder are the young people of this country. Reason being is that at first there was a theory that came in that COVID does not affect young people, doesn't kill young people. So both government and I think young people to try to get a little bit relaxed in terms of following the standard operation procedures. But not with the current trend. If you look through the last presidential address, it was clear that the majority of people who are actually being affected by COVID situation now are young people. Those ones who are suffering from severe illness as a result of the virus, that those ones who are symptomatic, and there are those ones who are even losing their lives. This literally changed the theory. And I think it's now high time that we refocus our attention into the biggest majority of the people, of the young population, to ensure that at least special consideration is given to them. Of course, government has taken a lot of initiatives in fighting the COVID-19. But as young people and as the Youth Council and youth leaders of this country, we feel like it is not adequate or a lot has not been done on the side of the young people. Let me give you an example. When it comes to the vaccination exercise that has been going on, when the Ministry of Health released their finding, they said that the categories that are supposed to benefit from these activities are the elderly and people who have serious illness, HIV, diabetes, pressure, and leaving aside this majority of the young people.
Which were not seen as vulnerable.
They were not seen as vulnerable.
Group, yes.
And it seems like we were not looking at the future during that time. So, the majority of the young people with the current vaccination, most of them, they have not benefited out of it, and now they are the victim of the current situation. So literally, we think it's important that government also need to refocus its vaccination exercise to look at this youth population. You know, young people are energetic, as we say, and they're also hustlers. Right now, they're home, and the few that have businesses, they're worried. They're worried that either they're going to eat their capital, true. Maybe even those who do rent, they're not sure whether they will be going back to the space where they've been occupying because of the issue of rent for their businesses. And of course, you know, the stomach doesn't wait. If the stomach is demanding, then automatically it means that even your mind, your brain stop working until when you fulfill the need of the stomach. Yes. They also need to support their families. You realize that 10.9% of the Ugandan population that are young people lead a household, which means that they have people that depends on them. And these people, they need support all the time.
And in addition to that, you find that 80% of the young people in Uganda in the informal sector, where these are jobs that have been put to a standstill in these 42 days.
Exactly.
So they have their leading household, that is a 10%, but 80% of them are not in the formal sector. That maybe they are doctors, nurses in government offices, but they are welders, they are in Kirabo, they are in arcades. Some are in different forms, and these are all affected.
Yes, exactly. So literally looking at the current situation, we need to ensure that the vaccination exercise that is going to proceed ahead, our government should put special attention to vaccinating the young people, the foundation of this country, the future of this country. They should put it as a priority. And then when it comes to the various packages that are going to come up, because as we look into the current situation, we should not also forget of the post-lockdown.
Maybe before Ogwa we look into the post, let's look at some lessons learned from the previous, the first wave of COVID-19 and the first lockdown. That is how the young people managed to sail through. What did you do as the body, that is the National Youth Council, for the young people? When we heard of these even come to the post, we had monies that were sent to Uganda Commercial Bank, Uganda Development Bank as stimulus packages. How did the young people benefit from this?
Robert, I must be honest that yes, it's true that government sent stimulus packages to support Ugandans. But when you look at these packages, of course, it was about around 1.2 trillion, 1.2 trillion that was sent both to Uganda Development Bank and Uganda Commercial Bank. But when you look at this bank and their mandates and their lending terms and conditions, you realize that the 80% that you're talking about, actually none could qualify for these packages. And literally putting that at a standstill, we have the informal sector that is accommodating 80% of the population, energetic young population, And then the priorities, the target to caution them from this kind of challenges is not reaching out to them.
That would act as a shock absorber.
Exactly. So literally, to my understanding or to my own opinion, I feel like it is necessary government revise, if they still have the plan to provide relief packages to these young people, to the country, a special consideration should be put towards the young people. Let it be accessible. When you go to the bank, you realize that most of the young people, at least in most of the banks in this country, young people go straight, they ask for loans, the terms are not favorable, they go back. They have the energy, they have the will, they have the spirit to ensure that at least they continue with their economic activity. Now with COVID-19 situation, the terms and conditions of lending in the banks are not favoring them. Now government packages, the previous one did not favor them. So these are the gaps. So government need to come in and say, okay, at least our young generation can access Stanbic Bank. They know where it is. They can access Centenary Bank. They can access Post Bank. And all these microfinance support centers. Exactly. So why don't we put these packages specifically for the young people who are into informal sectors?
So that means they have to better understand how these businesses of the young people, how are they organized? How can they tap into some of these packages that are provided, contrary to what maybe seems more of general and not addressing. So you leaders want something tailor-made for the youth.
Exactly. Yeah. So that we can also measure the impact as the youth leaders and as young people themselves. Because right now we cannot measure the impact. What did the other stimulus package do? How did it benefit the lives of the young people in the informal sectors? And what's the difference with this current strategy? Yeah, so literally I think that's where we need to. And of course, going by the informal sectors, you know that right now, 60% of the informal sectors, they are not working because the majority of these young people who are in the informal sector don't have means of transport. Even if they had, literally, first of all, it is closed down, meaning that they cannot access.
Institutions are working at 10%. At 10% maybe would be managers at managerial level, where young people may not be to that position and therefore may not be that essential in terms of the workforce. They could be needing to be present.
Yes. Yeah, so literally they cannot access their place of work. Now, what do they have? They're left with no option to stay at home.
Ogwa, as a leader, a young person watching us this morning and knowing that, yes, our representative, our leader is on set in this program, what is the message of hope? Because I see there is so much lamenting, so much pointing out the problem, but are there solutions to now for a young person that is watching us? We need to communicate hope.
Yeah, of course, in every dark tunnel, there is light ahead. Right now we are in the tunnel as young people, and we shouldn't lose hope that we are not going to see light. Light is going to be there. COVID-19 is there to stay with us. Nobody should lie to us young people that the COVID-19 is going to go away. So as young people, being innovative the way we are, being creative the way we are, I think it's high time to refocus our initiatives to see that it adapts the current situation. You have observed over time that the businesses are now mostly going into online, and it's high time also we called on government to revise some of their online policies. Most of the young people have their businesses on Facebook, marketing it online. Others use WhatsApp and other social media platforms. So it's time that we call upon the government to rescue this percentage who actually use online to market their initiatives. Because if we don't look at that angle as well, because that's where the world is going. We are in the first generation society. So literally, it means that everything that we are doing every day, it has some aspect of technology attached to it. So as young people, we need to refocus ourselves into how we are going to market our initiatives, how we are going to engage the client, the customers, and our communities. And also, let us continue observing the SOPs, because literally, a life that is lost from a young man, it means that we have lost a lot from that person. So your life is very important. Let's continue wearing our masks, But most importantly, let's not forget that we have the responsibility to take our country ahead. We are the foundation of this country. We literally contribute to every aspect of what? Of the socio-economic development of the country.
We're seeing young people, of course, you said they're innovative, they're very eager, and they're doing all it takes to make ends meet amid this challenging time of COVID-19. But one thing that comes to my mind is, of course, we are in a lockdown, but what have you done to ensure that we sensitize the young people about COVID-19? There is usually something I find in our country, our beautiful country, that yes, laws are put in place, measures are put in place, but people seem not to be appreciating them. I'll give an example. You find a young person lives home knowing that their workplace is actually under lock. They do not access this arcade. But at least they are willing to just come and play cards around town, to just come and socialize. Yet, this is the biggest danger to them. So it gives me wonders. You find a border person having a helmet and they are cruising without it on their head when they see a police officer. So this element of sensitization, that when enforcement is happening, people appreciate why it's happening, and therefore maybe would even spend less some monies on enforcement on some of these issues and treatment as well.
Comrade Robert, you are right. Enforcement regarding the issues concerning the welfare of the young people is very key. But also we must appreciate the fact that the youth of this country, the majorities, are born hustlers. When a young person reaches at the age of 18 to 30 to 35, demands start increasing. And these demands will not just allow you to stay at home. These demands decide or force you to leave your comfort zone, to look at where and how you can survive. You have brought a very nice scenario that government says that people should stay at home, but you find a young man leaving home, reaching Kirabo, finding that the place of his business is locked, and engage into other economic activities, which is gambling. Of course, at the back of their mind, they really think that, they really believe that whenever I leave home, I must go back with something. Because there are people, remember what I said, there are people who are depending on you. You're not as young alone. There are more younger ones behind you who needs you. And they're seeing you every day as a person of hope to them. So if you don't have, then they also cannot survive. So would you sit home? Exactly no. So literally that's what forces. But of course, there are certain circumstances. Others are mindset issues. Of course, the situation you talked about, the borders riding without the helmet. Those are mindset issues. Maybe because they feel like they're comfortable, and that's where the enforcement should be serious. But for someone who has left home with an intention to perform economic activity, with an intention to go back home with something, and with an intention to support the family, then definitely, I think that needs to be looked at a different angle.
We've seen a couple of efforts by government aimed at addressing issues of different sectors, different vulnerable groups in the time of COVID. But we want to know, to what extent has the youth leadership in this country been involved? We've had the task force. Now, when we talk about vaccination issues, where previously, and government was right, it was the vulnerable, were the aged, and people with health complications. How have you been involved, right from maybe the onset, planning, prioritizing? Now there's this excitement of monies that are going to be sent to the vulnerable. So how are you in sync? Are you represented at these various task forces for people who better understand your challenges as youth?
About the issue of engagement of the youth leaderships and the young people in this country, that's now decisions, where decisions are the task force. Of course, the president's announced its directive, the lockdown, on Friday, last Friday. And as Youth Council, we don't need to wait for them to call us to ensure that we are involved, or to ensure that you need to be part of the task force. We had to follow it up because we know that the biggest majority of the people who are affected by this lockdown are the young people. So literally we must demand for it. Of course, we have reached out to Ministry of Gender, that was put in charge of welfare, of the young welfare of the vulnerable groups. We have reached out to them. We have written to them, actually, requesting for the engagement of the Youth Council into what? Into the task force. And also we have written the same. We have done the same to the Office of the Prime Minister. We have written to the Prime Minister himself, ourselves, regarding the engagement of the young people. Of course, there have been gaps in one way or another. When you look at the previous lockdown, the Youth Council wasn't all that fully engaged, I have to be honest. But this time around that the trend has changed, I think government need to take better interest into engaging the youth leadership of this country. We have also gone ahead to encourage our young people at the district level to join the task force at the district level. Our chairpersons are writing to this RDCs and the district health officers to ensure that they're integrated into the task force at those levels. And the response, others have been positive, and others have been relaxed a bit. But of course, in similar faith and spirit, we want to encourage government to ensure that young people are not only participated, but they're fully participating into the process of managing COVID-19 situation, this second wave mostly. And then the relief support that is coming. Let it not be segregative to say that the young people are energetic, the young people can survive. No. This is a situation that is affecting everyone.
Because one would believe maybe, yes, the young people can survive, like you said, but you could have the elderly who are no longer even working, even before the lockdown, have found it very hard to make ends meet. Young people have various transactions, and maybe young people also, when it comes to the LC system, many of them, when they come into areas, they are not really known, they are not well embracive of such. So this leaves them in a dilemma when it comes to this relief. Also, if you have to go by what we believe, what we've been told, and the task force is working upon to ensure that people this time do not get the portion of the beans, but this time get these vouchers, this money, and they can find how best they can maneuver. Because when you send a person money, it's not a guarantee that they will buy the food. They can use that money for something else. Yes.
Yeah. True. We have also had it, though it's not yet official to us, that the task force, they're going to give money or literally reliefs in terms of food items. But of course, the conversation of money is taking a center stage. And most likely, we feel like government is most likely to implement that. But when it comes to the implementation of cash transfers to the vulnerable groups, which is, we feel like young people are part of it. I think government should look at a strategy that is going to make sure that it is as inclusive as possible. Because with whatever going on social media, as people are saying that you will only be paid based on what was your last transaction. Let me say if you had like 500,000 shilling, your last transaction, or in your mobile money account, there's a transaction of 500,000 shilling, then literally you're not considered vulnerable. But here we are dealing with the age group whereby they were politically active during election. Literally, the politicians were sending them money to undertake mobilization activities and airtime. Now we also have students where basically they use mobile money transfer to ensure that their parents, their guardians use mobile money transfer to ensure that they pay for their tuition. Like literally they send money to them. So now when you look at that area, it means that we are going to exclude the majority of the population. Of course, it still goes back to my word. Let us not see young people as they are being participated, but let's see the actual participation, whereby if the reliefs are going to come, let it cover the entire the entire useful population. Because as I told you, these people have households. These people's capitals and businesses are at stake. These people, literally, they're facing a lot of challenge. The issue of mental health is rising.
Depression.
Depression, psychologically. It is disturbing them. So a relief that is going to come should be in position to at least a little bit cushion them from such circumstance, such situation, for a considerable amount of time. Because this right now is a time of survival. And this survival is not that you must survive at luxury. You must survive with the means. So literally, if government decide to provide cash, let it be as open to the young people. And we do believe that the young people also, depending on the situation, or looking at the current situation right now, they will be in position to use the little that they have given, to at least take them through. 6 weeks is not little. The previous lockdown taught us a lesson. Now only around like these few weeks, 1.5 weeks into this lockdown, we already started seeing young people committing suicide. Reason we don't know. Or the reason could be like they cannot now sustain. They feel like there's nothing I can do. I would rather lose my life or go and steal. And we should also expect, because if we are not careful, the level of crime rate is going to increase. However much the security personnel are there, but someone would risk to ensure that they survive. So I think these are things that government need to take into consideration and ensure that at least the young people of this country are safe for these 6 weeks. After that, of course, automatically, as I told you, the majority of them are hustlers. They will find a way to survive after that, because they can move, they can engage into small economic activities around, they can also find a way of using other means, or even the support that will come out. Yeah, so literally, I think that's where I want government to focus itself. Let the relief be for everyone, for every youth in this country, irrespective of how much they have in their mobile money account, and then let the stimulus package be as favorable and accessible as possible by the youth of this country. And then, of course, let them be vaccinated. Then they're all human. Let them be vaccinated to ensure that their lives are protected, they're secured.
Ogwal, one of the challenges government has always faced when it comes to helping young people is how organized they are. Yes, you have structures. When you talk about even all these stimulus packages, all these packages aimed at wealth creation, talk about the Myoga, talk about youth livelihood, youth capital venture fund. Now we are eager, if it's not the lockdown, for the parish development model. There's been a challenge of organizing them, forming groups, tracing them. How organized are your structures, or how have you empowered these structures that the youth can ably tap into the government initiatives aimed at propelling them to another level economically?
That's the question of participation that we were talking about. When you looked into these government programs, let me first start by putting aside youth livelihood programs. And I start with Imyoga, the parish model that is coming up. You looked at the Youth Ventures Capital Fund that is accessible through Centenary Bank. You find out that mostly the youth leadership of these countries that have structures from the village to the national level, actually with the role to organize these young people to benefit out of these initiatives, they are not engaged. We have a Myoga in place, a very good program. To me, I feel like it's among one of the best programs we have, because it gives the power to the groups to lend among themselves and also repay back the money. And literally, but the challenges I've seen with this program is that how to monitor these programs. How to monitor these programs. You realize that the youth are given money, but the youth leadership, they are not engaged. And the cohesion issues within the groups itself is a challenge. And who can address this? The youth leaders, the youth leadership. They're the ones who are supposed to address it, but they are not engaged into the issue. Monitoring this, they don't have. Actually, we are not seen as stakeholders. When you looked at the Myoga, the parish model, when Youth Ventures Capital Fund is a little bit, there's a way it is done. That one we can forgive them, because for the private sector has taken lead, the Centenary Bank. Only what we can do is talk to government and revise on the revise on the guideline to ensure that the majority of young people can access it. But also the fund is small. But when you look at this huge program like the parish model, we have not yet had an interaction with the Minister of Local Government. And this is a song. It's being sung everywhere. And when you look at the committees, they're also saying that the youth are supposed to be part of the committees at the parish level. But when you look at the level of active participation of our youth, of our structures at the parish level, they're not very active. Now, it's a time government should use the youth council to mobilize its constituency to ensure that the young people benefits from these initiatives. And then not only that, it should be clear, you know, a young person, we are not told that very patient, I have to tell you. Youth are not patient. You will go to an office, maybe for the CDO in your sub-county, and then you want to access, maybe you want to access the support under the parish model. And you don't find that the CDO is, do this, do this, do this, and they're not being cooperative. You end up giving up. But if the programs are earmarked whereby you know that 30% of the money that is going to go to the parish is meant for the youth of that parish, there the accountability mechanism comes in. Even as youth leaders, we can even all the leadership at that level accountable. The 30%, where are the youth who benefited from this 30%? Can we see them? You get it? So literally, I think that's where what belongs to the youth should be clearly stated to them. And also the cooperation between the youth leadership and the technical team and the young people must be very key. Remember, we are voted in office, and the youth gave us their mandate. It means that they literally believe in us. We also understand their language.
But how have you, to what extent have you interested yourself in these issues? For example, yes, even if the leadership is not involved, maybe at the inception of a project, but how have you mobilized these youth? How have you, as the National Youth Council, have you taken initiatives to meet, help in organizing? Because this has been the challenge. We might look at bureaucracy as an issue towards accessing this money, but also they will tell you, but really, some of these groups, the leadership may not seem that interested. And this is why these, even the stimulus packages we saw previously, even we believe, because in the budget we saw some of these allocations going to these specific sectors because they know that, yes, we were hit by the pandemic. We are still being hit by the pandemic, but there must be a plan, a recovery plan. So I feel you've not done much.
Robert, I must be honest with to say that we have reached out to these stakeholders. We have written to Ministry of Local Government requesting to have a discussion with them on how young people can actually support, mostly the Youth Council, can support the effective implementation of the parish model. We haven't yet gotten a response from Ministry of Local Government. We have also reached out to the Nyonyintono Secretariat to ensure that the young people, because, you know, we came into the leadership. We came into the leadership. We are just 8 months old into the youth leadership. So literally, it means that we are also, the pandemic has also come in. We are being distorted by this COVID-19. But we have reached out to a Nyonyintono Secretariat also to ensure that at least information should be available to the youth leadership of this country. They should have access to right information. Even the youth leadership of this country, from the district, sub-county, parish, even villages to some extent, at national, they must be sensitized about this program because we are new into the system. So we need information in order for us to guide them better. But of course, we have also advised others to take key interest into these government programs because literally, if they are messed up, even you as a youth leader, literally your leadership is also messed up because the district is going to do whatever they want in the way they like it. And at the end of the day, it's the young people that you lead in your district who are going to suffer. So as the chairperson of the districts, as the youth leader within your capacity, it's upon you to take interest in getting information from these programs, understand how many groups are benefiting out of them, where are the gaps, and how can you bring the youth of your constituency on board to ensure that they actually participate in these programs. Yeah, so literally that is what we have been trying to do. But of course, we are not going to get tired. We shall continue communicating to our constituencies to ensure that they are always part of these initiatives. We are going to encourage them as their leaders to ensure that literally they don't feel left behind. At least the best we can do at the national level is to give them the information. And that's what we are going to continue to do, time and again. The Youth Council structure is a coordination structure. We coordinate with the districts, and we expect the district leadership to coordinate with the sub-counties, and we expect the sub-county leadership to coordinate with the parish, down up to the village, The village is where our biggest constituencies is. Is the place where we have the biggest majority of the young people at the village level. It means that now we need to look at the strategies on how our village structures can also be active. Remember, we have around 630,000 youth leaders in this country, democratically elected. So they are known within their constituencies.
And these have capacity and potential if brought on board. Well, I want to read a few messages that are coming in. First, thank you, Joram Akampurira. Says, Sam, I'm watching. And that is thanking you for the good work you're doing. Then we have Sodrick, the Confessor. And he says, watching live from Lila City. Thank you so much for watching. Joram Akampurira, Kiruhula Straight. Okay, he's now in Chukra. Then we have still Sodrick, the Confessor. He says, thank you a lot, UBC, for giving a platform to the young people of this country. But also, the Confessor comes back and says, Sam, what you are saying is right, but according to what I've seen, it seems in my motherland, it's that the young people are just seen as gamblers and criminals by our institutions and or national leaders. This is what he says. It seems this is what he's seeing. But of course, time is not so much on our side in response to Sam's observation, but also your final remarks to the youth.
Yeah. I must say that what Sodrick has said it's true. You see, when you're being nurtured in a society, one of the principles that is embedded into your mind is that you must own the society. That's why you find most of the people who own their families, because that's where they were groomed up. The family also showed them that they belong to what? To that family, the leadership, the parents, like we are one. But now, we are living in a country whereby I think the young people are seen as not members of the families. They're seen as people who are outside the family. I don't know why. Or because it is because of the mindset issue, the energy they have, or the way they do things, that makes the older people to fear them, because, you know, our decision level is full of the older generation. So they feel there's a disconnect. And we also feel like there's a disconnect between the young generation and the older generation. And this is something that we are really looking at it keenly. And of course, we know that it's not too late. We are going to ensure that at least the issue of the mindset, let the young people love their country, let the older people see that the young people have relevance towards the development of this country. Let us not only be seen as a tool for mobilization during election, whereby after you get in the office, you forget that there's a constituency that really that's really rallied behind you for you to win. And of course, my last message to the young people is that let us stay safe. This pandemic is going to normalize the situation, and let us persevere. I know it's a hard time for most of us. It's a very hard time, very tough, but we shall overcome one day. And of course, I request government to engage the youth leadership and the young people as much as they can, because this is the constituency that is being hit mostly by this pandemic. So government should give special attention to the youth of this country. We at the Youth Council, we are ready to work with government at all levels, whether it comes to sensitization, whether it comes to mobilization, for young people to benefit, for young people to encourage their fellows to follow SOPs, and whether it comes to the issues of organizing them. We are ready.
Well, I want to thank you so much, Sam Ogwal, who is the Secretary for Finance, National Youth Council, for having found time and to discuss the plight of the youth at this particular trying moment of the second wave of COVID-19. The call is upon government, involve the youth more in all these plans aimed at ensuring they sail through this time, and also the post time after the lockdown. But also to the youth, it is a time that you care about your life. Please and please be very, very obedient to the SOPs. You only live once, and remember, there's so much that awaits you in the future. So it is now that you act or you perish in this second wave. God bless you. I'll leave you with Ruben, the sportsman, excited to give you all the updates that you need to know. And later on, of course, we'll hand over to Good Morning Uganda Extra, as we'll be discussing more issues of national concern and pertinent issues. Good morning. Keep it on UBC TV.